And I've spent the last week over 9 hours working with them, and still my phone has not been restored. And I thought, well, is this connected with the whole purging of, and at first I didn't want to believe it, but as it goes on and on and on, I start to wonder if it's not connected. So anybody that has tried to get a hold of me or has my number, that's why I haven't been hiding from you. I haven't been blocking your phone calls. I just don't have service. So it's a little bit about political warfare, and what happens in political warfare, and it happens in many different ways, is they try to isolate you. They try to isolate you so you don't have a voice. They do it either by incarcerating you, or they somehow isolate you, and then they demonize you. Then they come out with these articles and so forth. Maybe you've read some of them about how I'm a domestic terrorist, about how I'm building an army, and all these other crazy things. And then if they can get the general public to believe it, then guess what? Then they try to destroy. And that's what they'll try to do with you. It doesn't matter. It's not just me. This is old time political warfare. They will try to isolate you. Then they'll try to demonize you. And then they'll demonize this whole group here today.
That's right.
The papers will demonize you. They'll try to make it look like you're an isolated people, that you're radicals. They'll try to demonize you. And their whole point is so that they can use force to stop you or to control you.
Yep.
Now, I need both hands here. I'm going to set this down. So I went to the news, right, the great news, and I started reading some headlines, and hopefully I can make my point here. So it says, mask wearing and the common good. Wear face masks for the common good. This is from the Medium. This is from 910 News. Pope Francis calls health of all, calls health of all a common good. From the Albuquerque Journal, common good outweighs the right not to wear masks. From the Gazette Extra, keep in mind the common good and wear a mask. Journal News, for the common good, wear your mask. And it says, after a spike in case, the governor made a tough love decision to protect livelihoods and save lives by mandating use of masks for the common good. You see do you see something common here?
Yeah.
Nash and Banks, face masks for the common good. This is Lancaster News. Sometimes the common good outweighs the individual freedoms.
No.
Right?
Woo!
National Herald. Pope Francis calls health of all, I think I said that, a common good. I think I already read that one. Wear a mask about wearing a mask about greater good. So you get ready. I mean, you've heard it the last year, last 6, 7, 8, 9 months, whatever, about the common good, right? We need to act for the common good. Well, let's talk about the common good a little bit. Here's an article out of the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and it says the common good refers to those faculties that the members of a community provide to all members in order to fulfill a relational obligation they all have to care for certain interests that they have in common, right? So everybody has a duty to care for everybody. And so let's go on. Let's talk about like the reality of this. I would like to define socialism. Okay? Probably something that you've already read, but a political and economical theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole for the common good. Communism, a theory of system of social organizations based on the holdings of all property for the common good. Actual ownership being ascribed to the community as a whole or the state. Collectivism, the practice of a principle of giving a group priority over each individual in it for the common good. Right? So we start to see the common good, what it's all about. Now, I'm not going to be really exciting here, and I hope that you don't view me right now as someone that's here to entertain you. I'm hoping that we could I can educate maybe a little bit, or give you some weapons so that you can use them, and I mean that in a literal and
go live again.
Theoretical words, so that you can use to talk to your the city officials. I mean, are they communists right now? Are they acting like communists? Are they acting like socialists? Are they trying to communalize our rights? That's exactly what they're doing. Well, this has been done before. So if you go, a great resource is actually go to the Library of Congress. It's amazing. And go into the 30s and to the 40s when they were fighting communism, when the world was at war over communism and socialism, because the Library of Congress was clear full of documenting the atrocities of those who were wanting to control people's bodies, their properties, for the common good. Now let me read you, in November, I might get a little boring here because I'm going to read a little bit, because I think it's important that I share these things. In November, and cut me off when I'm done, just cut me off. In November 1927, yes.
I just need to make a real quick announcement. It is 4:30. I don't want all of you to leave at once because you need to stay here and listen. But if you are elderly, if you are have any kind of health issues, we want you to go first. Please make your way over to the building to sign up if you want to speak. We want to get you over there first, so please make your way over there.
Thank you. I'm the sideshow. That's the real show. I do want to, emphasize before anybody goes over there, even the fact that we're going over there and asking them not to mandate is actually an incorrect act, because it is not their choice at all. They don't have the right to mandate. But we also believe that it is important that we give notice, that we let them know our grievance, and again, I'm the sideshow. So back to the greater good, right? We're doing it for the greater good. So Joseph Stalin launched a 5-year plan, and it was adopted by the Communist Party in 1928. And basically what it did is it industrialized, well, let me just read, all industry and services were nationalized. Managers, which were the owners of the businesses, were turned into managers, and they were given predetermined output quotas by the central planners, okay? And the trade unions were converted into mechanisms for increasing worker productivity. The 5-year plan called for transforming Soviet agriculture from predominantly individual farms into systems of large state collective farms. Stalin's focus particularly was hostile upon the actual the most productive farms, and about 1 million of what they call the kulak households, some 5 million people, were deported and never heard of from again. Forced collectivism of the remaining peasants resulted in a disastrous disruption of agricultural production and a catastrophic famine in 1932 to 1933. So basically, because of this idea of the common good, Stalin said, we're going to take all of basically the farms, and we're going to make them belong to the state, to the government. And then we're going to take all the owners, and we're going to make them the managers. And it was a complete failure because no one wanted to produce anymore, right? And it caused a great famine. And by 1940, but he continued on. By 1940, approximately 97% of all peasant households had been collectivized, and private ownership of property almost entirely was eliminated. Forced collectivization helped achieve Stalin's goal of rapid industrialization, but the human costs were incalculable. Okay, so who knows who was the greatest enemy of Stalin during his times? Anybody know history? It wasn't the United States of America, it was Germany, right? But guess what? Germany was doing the exact same thing as Stalin. The exact same thing. So the National Socialist Program was a 25-point program that Hitler announced in front of about 2,000 people on February 24th, 1920. I want to read you a couple of these points, and then I'm going to basically make my ultimate point. So, Going down through these 25 points, my hands are cold here. Now, this isn't all of them, but we demand that the state be charged first with providing the opportunity for a living and the way of life for the citizens. Is that the state's responsibility? That's our responsibility, right? That's your right. It's not the state's right. But as soon as the state takes responsibility for that, guess what? You come second. Point 10, the first obligation of every citizen must be to productively work mentally or physically. The activity of the individual may not clash with the interest of the whole, but must proceed within the framework of the whole for the benefit of the general good, right? 11, the abolition of unearned incomes. That's basically property, any profit from property. We demand nationalization of all businesses which have been up to the present formed into companies. State took all the businesses. We demand that the profits from wholesale trade shall be shared out. Remember, this is the 25 point for the National Socialist Party in Germany, and this was enforced by Hitler. We demand land reformation suitable to our needs, the state's needs. We demand struggle without consideration against those whose activity is injurious to the general interest. The state is to be responsible for a fundamental reconstruction of our whole national education system. The comprehension of the concept of the state must be striven by the school as early as the beginning of understanding. So the children were to be taught that the state was in charge from the very beginning. We demand the education at the expense of the state. 21, the state is to care for the elevating national health. We demand, 23, we demand legal opposition to known lies and their propaganda through the press. All writers and employees of the newspaper appearing in the German language must be members of the race. Non-German newspapers be required to have the express permission of the state to be published. They may not be printed in German language. Publications which are counter to the general good are to be forbidden. We demand legal prosecution of artistic and literary forms which exert a destructive influence in our national life. 24, we demand freedom of religion for all religious denominations within the state so long as they, quote, do not endanger the existence of oppose the moral sense of the German race. The party as such advocates the standpoints of positive Christianity, combats the Jewish materialistic spirit within and around us, and is convinced that a lasting recovery of our nation can only succeed from within the framework of, quote, the good of the community before the good of the individual, unquote. For the execution of all this, we demand the formation of a strong central power. And then the leaders vowed to this. The leaders of the party promise, if necessary, by sacrificing their own lives to the support by the execution of the points set forth above without consideration. Tell me if a lot of that sounds familiar or not. Does it not sound familiar? The Ten Commandments reads, thou shalt not steal. And we find ourselves here in history fighting the same thing. So some of the most wicked things that have ever happened in the history of mankind has been done for the greater good. You cannot have a forest of trees without having trees. And what benefits a tree, right, will benefit the forest. But to take an individual's rights and say they do not matter or say that they're overwritten by the common good is just a ploy that has been used over and over and over for individuals to get in control and to have control of that and to oppress the people. So I offer you this. Now, the question is, what do we do? Like, what actually needs to be done? I don't believe that going to the governor and asking him to stop what he's doing is going to work. I don't even know that going to them, even though they're local, so you might have more influence to them, going to the city members, council members, and asking them to please don't do something that they have no authority to do in the first place. I don't know that would work. But what I do know it works, and what I have seen in my life that works, is by simply do not comply. Do not comply. And in fact, if you do comply, what you have just done is you have basically granted your rights to them and said that it is a privilege. It is nobody's business but yours what you wear over your face. Nobody's. And to say that you can't come out and breathe the fresh air that God has created for you without a man-made filter over your mouth is an insult to here I'm littering, is an insult to you and your rights. The way rights are maintained and the way they are kept in the position of the owner is they are claimed. They're yours. They belong to you. Who gave you your rights? Yeah, we know that, right? But they must not, because they must think that God gave these rights to them, to government, and then government grants them as a privilege to you. But we know that is not correct. There's nothing in between. God gave you your rights. And the only purpose for government is to protect them and to uphold them. And you cannot collectivize those rights. Those rights are individual. They belong to each person. They cannot be collectivized. So you cannot say, there is no legal or moral basis for saying that there is a collective good and we have to protect that collective good. None whatsoever at all. And that's exactly what's going on in there right now. They're saying that they have the authority to mandate you as an individual to cover your face. And that is when you're outside or wherever else it might be. That is absolutely incorrect. Now, they might be able to give a guideline if they choose. They might be able to give good information for you to read and educate yourself. But as soon as it is based upon forcing you to do something you do not believe in doing, then it is morally wrong and they will be accountable for it. That's it. And we see over and over and over that the battle is the same. And it is an effort to stomp and to tromp on the individual rights of a person. And I mean, you could, in any case where you have tyrants that have hurt the people or afflicted tremendous struggles or pains upon the people, you will see that they did it for the greater good. They did it what they thought or what they said, and the excuse was for the greater good. And I hope today that this greater good thing begins to be better understood. And I hope that any politician or any legislature or anybody that acts like they have authority to do something for the greater good sees what has been said here today, and the people that are here standing up, and they basically turn around. They stop doing it and repent. Anyway, I have one little story that I'm going to tell.
We can go ahead and let about another 10 or 15. The line is shortened up there a little bit. So about 10 or 15 more people want to go in and sign up to be able to speak. Please do that at this time.
Okay, I've rattled on here quite a bit, so I'm going to finish up. Again, I'm just a sideshow. So, but my family and I were incarcerated for 2 years for standing up for our rights, for our property rights. Anyway, I won't get into it too much, but it was a terrible, terrible 2 years. Not once I was able to physically hold or see my family. They basically said that we could do it through a video machine. Almost half the time I was incarcerated, I was in solitary confinement. One of those times was they actually sanctioned me one of the other inmates gave me a little packet of salt and a little packet of pepper. And somehow, I don't know, they found out that I had it, and they called it contraband. They came in and raided my cell, turned everything upside down, all my legal papers, they just scattered everywhere. And then and I was gone, I was at court, so when I come back, everything was just a disaster. I didn't even know what I had done. And then they charged me with having salt and pepper. Now, I was a 40-year-old man. Before they incarcerated me, I had a very successful business. At that time, I had employed hundreds of people. I was a father of 6 children. I'd been married to the same woman, my wife Lisa, for at that time like 18 years. And they're coming in and now saying that they have a right to restrict me from having salt and pepper. Not only that, is they actually had a little internal trial where they wanted me to testify and defend myself in this accusation of having salt and pepper, which I refused to participate in. Anyway, they convicted me of having salt and pepper, and the sentence was 10 days in solitary confinement. Now, I want to draw that story to another story that happened much earlier, and in India. And who knows? Anybody in here knows anything much about Gandhi? Maybe you've heard the word, right? All I knew about Gandhi was that he walked for like 200 and something miles, and he did, and he got thousands and thousands of people to walk with him, and he began to start basically the independence of India. And they contribute the independence of India to Gandhi and this walk. Well, it wasn't very many days ago, actually, that I found out that the reason why he walked was because the British government had made it illegal for anybody in India to make salt, to actually make it and to sell it, and to actually even have a large enough amount for anybody to really benefit from it commercially. So his walk was 240 miles, I think, to a little town by the name of, I got it right here, by the name of Dandi probably is how you pronounce it. He walked 200 miles, and then he went out into he actually rested a day, and then he went out into the Arabian Sea, and he began to collect salt water to make salt. And all the people began to do the same thing. They started making salt, and they made over and over. They were doing it in open defiance of the British government, right? And because he understood something very important. He understood that the only way to restore that right back to the people was to disobey and non-compliance, to not comply. And if enough of people did it, or if he just continued to do it, then basically the law becomes null and void. It becomes unenforceable, I would say. And so that is exactly what has to happen. Whether they mandate a mask or not, what has to happen in Twin Falls is people must not comply. And it's not because must not comply. And it's not because you might want to wear a mask. You might even believe that a mask will actually protect you and your neighbor. You still can't wear a mask, because the greater danger is somebody else saying that you have to wear a mask. The greater danger is what the force of law will do, and what they will do if they're confused about whose rights belong to who. So that's my message. Non-compliance, it's a must. We've learned it, and I hope that we've learned it now, and we'll continue to use it. So, and I want to thank Shane for the opportunity to be here. And anyway, thank you very much.
I'm going to catch some grief
from some of the folks in there for letting this gentleman come speak. And I call him a gentleman because that's exactly what he is. If you don't know his story and you only listen to what the headlines have to say about him, you're going to be very, very confused about Ammon Bundy. When I first heard his story, I told him this over the phone, so it's not a surprise to him when I was talking to him. I said, when I first heard the story and what was going on, I was a little bit misinformed. I didn't understand. I didn't realize just how bad the media twists things. But I started doing research, and this is what you have to do. It's up to you not to be confused about the law, not to be confused about their authority. They don't have authority. We have the authority. They are employed by us. And it's time they start listening to us again, doggone it. And as I started looking into the story, I started to understand his heart. His heart is not an activist. He has no desire to be an activist. What he wants is for the government to just simply do their job and represent you and I again. And they need to get back to that. And the only way for that to happen is for us to start standing up for our rights, no matter the cost. He's lost a lot. And he continues to lose a lot. You know, I watched what the media did to him when he went over there at Caldwell. I'm going to stand here really quick, and I want to set this story straight about that. The media said that he showed up there and he caused a bunch of problems. You know what he did? He walked in there and he said, "Hey, can I buy a ticket and go into a ball game?" They said, "Absolutely, but you got to put a mask on." And he said, "I don't want to put a mask on. I don't believe in it." And they said, "Well, you know, after a little bit of talking, just calm talking, they said, I tell you what, put the mask on, go sit in your seat, and you can take it back off again." He said, "I don't believe in it. You're asking me to go against my religious beliefs. Is there any other option?" They said, "Put it on, take 3 steps." Was that about health or was that about compliance? It was about compliance. They just wanted him to comply. Just for 3 steps. Put the mask on and comply for 3 steps. But complying for 3 steps is still complying with an illegal mandate. And he said, "I tell you what, I don't want to cause a problem. My boy's playing ball here. I'll just go stand over there next to the fence on the outside, looking in like an outcast, like what they've done to people that don't comply for decades. I'll watch it from out there." And as they were watching the ball game, he said, "You know what? I don't want people thinking that I'm doing this just so I don't have to pay. We're watching the game. We're still enjoying the ball game. I'm going to go pay." Now, I think that should tell you a little bit about his character. He's not what the media makes him out to be. So he went over to pay, and they said, "You know what? You can't be over there." And he says, "Well, I'm just going to go over there." And they sent the cops in. The cops showed up. And when the cops showed up, they said, "Mr. Bundy, they want you to leave. They're going to trespass you." And he said, "They don't have the authority to tell me I can't be here. I'm sitting on the outside of the fence. I'm not in there. I'm watching the game from out here." And the cops did the right thing. They didn't arrest him. They didn't trespass him. They just stood there and kept the peace, which is what their job is to do. And so the draconian measures of the school board over there, they went to the coach for the Eagle team, or Emmett team, and said, "If he doesn't leave, we're going to call the game." Social pressure. Social pressure. Turning neighbors on neighbors. Turning neighbors into snitches. Dividing you. And he said, "Mr. Coach, when are you going to stand for your liberty? When are you going to stand for your rights? Because the people are watching you right now, and if you don't stand for your rights, they're going to keep doing stuff like this." They called the game, and the media made him out to be an enemy. I watched the videos. I'm not taking anybody's word for it. I watched the videos from start to finish. I saw this happen. So what do government representatives that are supposed to represent us do when we don't comply? When they see somebody who stands for his liberty, did you see the line of cops that just went in that building? It's intimidation. We're not Black Lives Matter. We're not here breaking windows and causing a ruckus. We're just simply here to say, would you please listen to us for once?
would you please listen to the people at Twin Falls? Don't do this. And they send a line of cops in there. Do not let them intimidate you. Do not let them intimidate you. I'm asking every single one of you now to go sign up and go make your voices heard, because that's what you came here for. You didn't come here to listen to us, but we had an opportunity to share a little bit of information with you to give you a little bit more ammunition. But at the end of the day, it's not about whether or not the mask is going to work. It's about whether or not our government is going to go back to work for you. And the only way that our government goes back to work for us is if we take the power back. We have given it over to them. But the law has not changed. The Constitution has not changed. Our forefathers, the words that they penned all the way back in the Declaration of Independence, all the way through our Constitution, has not changed. We have the power. They work for us. Let's go remind them of that. Thank you. In a little while, after everybody gets a chance to sign up, we're going to start announcing numbers. You have to remember your number. They're going to give you a number when you sign up. We'll announce those numbers to make sure that if there's not enough room for us in there, we'll announce them so that you can go back in. Unfortunately, there was a medical emergency, so one of our guys that was up here talking had to leave. I think it's a little bit cold. We were going to have them come up here and do a Q&A, but at this point, I think it's more important that we all get in that line and we go in there and we sign up. And then as people start filtering through, they're going to have, if there's not enough room inside, then we'll have to stand outside. We're just going to have to kind of rotate people in so everybody gets their chance to speak. If they move forward with this, Kirk Pendergrass gave us a 17-page document over here. We're going to put them on notice that they are breaking the law, the real law, and that we're going to take measures to have them criminally charged. Thanks for coming out. Hey folks, quick favor. So when we got the permit to do this, Travis Johnson is the one who signed his name to that permit. What he also signed his name to is that we were going to clean up after ourselves and we would do no damage, and he is held personally responsible. So look around you. If you see any garbage, please pick it up. Also, these nice folks over here put about $200 out of their pocket to have this coffee.